One. And welcome to this week's edition of DawgDial. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined by my trusty co-host, Dave McMahon of UGAsports.com. Jake Roos unable to join us this week, but we will have Anthony Dasher, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs football, basketball, baseball, and whatever other sports, the all-time beat writer for the Georgia Bulldogs, and UGA Sports member Anthony Dasher with us.
I mean, we miss Jake. I mean, Jake's always fun to be around and for a little comedy relief, but I mean, Dasher knows Georgia sports incredibly well, and
he sure does.
And I mean, like I said, he like UGA people ask him for questions a lot of times.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to have him around.
Sure thing. And just to give you guys a little rundown of what we're going to be talking about this show, we're going to talk about Mark Fox, the hoopla that surrounded a recent article coming out. Yes, you like
good.
that? Coming out on Yahoo Sports about Georgia potentially looking for new candidates. Greg McGarity, Georgia's athletic director, had to nip that in the bud pretty quick. Media release came out on that at 8 in the morning. So
yeah, 8:19 is not. It's like something's up.
We're going to talk a little bit of basketball, baseball, and then also what we expect or realistic expectations for the spring for Georgia's offense and defense in football. Also, make sure to get your questions in, guys. As always, we'll be answering them through the chat line and anything about recruiting. I think I can cover it for this show. So we got it covered. It's just me and my man Dave, but we're going to come at you live and on time always. So you're listening to DawgDial, presented by UGAsports.com. Yeah, all right, guys, and here we go. We're coming back. We're coming right back. We're going right into it. So we're going to go right into the Mark Fox debacle. So if you can hear us, make sure you're giving us that thumbs up Facebook and put in any questions that you got.
Yeah, send questions. Send it to your friends. Like us and do all sorts of stuff that we all enjoy here at Facebook and UGAsports.com and DawgDial and Champies, all the people like sharing little messages and some love for us.
I'm just putting out a quick little tweet, guys. So
yeah, I mean, Dash is on his way to Nashville right now, to Nash Vegas, and but he'll be joining us by phone momentarily. And so if there's questions that you could ask us and ask him, we'll be more than happy to ask him. To get around. And I mean, like I said, he might know more about Mark Fox than both of us combined, but we'll do our best on our side and stuff like that.
Here we go. 3, 2. And welcome back to DawgDial. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined by my trusty co-host, Dave McMahon of UGAsports.com. And as we said in the show open, a lot to talk about on this show, and we're going to start it right off with Mark Fox. A recent article published by Pat Forty of YahooSports.com said Georgia looking around to fill their basketball head coaching job. Came as a little bit of a shock, seeing how Georgia still has the SEC tournament to go, and potentially could go to a 20-win team if everything works out. That seems to be the number that keeps a coach around these days in college basketball. And Georgia, Greg McGarity, had to put out a press release, 8:19 in the morning. I'm going to read it to you guys before I flip it over to Dave. It said, in response to the report by Yahoo Sports, we are not, in all caps, NOT, in the process of exploring our options to replace Mark Fox. We look forward to Mark leading our program next year, and that all of our efforts are centered on postseason play. It's unfortunate we need to respond at this time, but it was necessary to quiet these unfounded rumors. Well, that's a big statement, Dave, and if we could go back to that right quick. The thing that sticks out to me the most with that statement is we look forward to Mark leading our program next year.
Now, it says that, but I'm still not sold on that. I mean, I've heard that happen a lot before with coaches and teams and whatnot. I mean, you could say all you want. It's the right thing for McGarity to say right now. Obviously, the number one focus is the SEC tournament and whatever happens next, whether it's the NCAA tournament, hopefully, but it could be the NIT. You got to focus on that and focus on what's going on. And if people start talking about, we're going to get a new coach here, new coach there, it's a lot distracting for not only the coach himself, but the players involved.
My biggest thing with that, though, is you could literally just come out and say, we're not discussing this right now as we are moving into postseason play. No comment. Don't even address the rumors. I don't think it was a big enough rumor to where you had to really shoot it down the day after at 8 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't one that I would have. But I host a radio show. I'm not an athletic director. I don't really have the credentials for that. But that's one of the things that I thought of. You put that out immediately, and to the casual fan, let me read it again to you, Dave.
There you go.
We look forward to Mark leading our program next year, and all of our efforts are centered on postseason play.
That means he's coming back according to the way.
Yeah. The way it's written, and the way that you look at it there is, well, now, all right. So if he loses Game 1 to Tennessee in the SEC tournament, he's still coming back because we have a press release here. The big thing with this that I will say that is going to bite Georgia's athletic department in the butt, if they do end up parting ways with Mark Fox and they let him go, well, this statement right here just goes to show you that
it'll come back to haunt them.
Absolutely.
I mean, they could say, and other coaches could use that as well.
Sure.
So yeah, unfortunately, like you said, the way it was written is the main part. Like if you said no comment, then they could say either way, let him go, let him stay. You could be all about. It's a lot of things that could go on from now until when you need to get talk to the recruits, when you need to get ready for next season. I mean, a lot of things could happen. Maybe Mark Fox leaves on his own. Maybe he stays. Maybe he signs more. I mean, it's. I don't like you said. It should have been written better.
Yeah.
It's not written well, but I think just because the way it's said, I don't think it's still 100% the way it could come out. I mean, if, like you said, if Georgia looks horrible, I mean, I hate to say it, I get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia's. The same thing would happen to Mark Richt. Georgia was so used to having good seasons, but not the great season. And then basketball right now, I mean, people are saying, oh, Georgia basketball is horrible. Georgia basketball is not horrible. Georgia basketball is good, but it's not anywhere near where Georgia wants to be. Georgia wants to win NCAA tournament games. They want to win more than 20 games a season, obviously. But it's not it's not where they want to be, and I think that's the difference right now. It's not great, and some of these other teams are great, and that's what they made a change for football. Will they make the change for basketball?
That's the biggest question, and this statement that came out on March 7th just goes to show you that writing one at 8:15 in the morning, you might need to get it proofread 3 or 4 times by three or four different people, because you put that out, and that's all I'm saying. And they could bring him back next year, and that's fine. And the comments that were said in the press release is 100% accurate. But I just don't think that it needed to be shot down. A couple of things that I do want to touch on, though, before we head to break, is the recruiting class that Mark Fox has in place. He has a very talented. He's got 3 guys. The top guy is a top 50 player in Rashawn Hammonds. He's going to be playing in the state championship game again for Norcross at Georgia Tech, and I got to watch him play in one game this year. He is an animal.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's getting ton of points, ton of rebounds, ton of blocks. I mean, he is a very good, very, very good player. It's one of the better players in the Mark Fox era that he's recruited. And what I like about it is, like, I think one of the main points that Georgia has not done very well is getting a ton of post players. Yeah, and usually it's a guard, usually it's a 2-guard or a 3, maybe sometimes a point guard, but it's very few post players that Georgia's getting. And not only they got Hammonds, but they also got Claxton, also that's not that bad. And he's also a legacy with Claxton, and he's the son of a former Dawg. And so it's kind of cool to have him. I mean, and then the third guy.
I will say with Hammonds, people always say, and this happened with Mark Richt too, well, they're going to lose recruits. But you cannot focus your whole program around 1 or 2 guys. I think that the big thing is if you keep Coach Hayes around, then I think you keep Hammonds no matter what coach you bring in. And I think that he's the type of player that you need to bring into this program when you're losing a scorer like JJ. So even though they're playing totally separate positions, I think you don't need to worry about basketball recruiting as much. You have to have a holdover from the old staff. Georgia football did it. So that's what I look at with that. So we're going to take a quick break, guys. We're going to come back. We're going to have Anthony Dasher on with us. You're listening to DawgDial, presented by UGASports.com.
All right.
I don't know if you want to have him on, but we need to text him, but I don't want to use my phone.
We're ready.
We're ready for him.
Text him and say, are you ready?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, please send us some more questions, send Dash some questions. I mean, Dash knows, like I said, probably knows more probably we got the text at 8:19. There probably was Dash was involved at 8:18, 8:20, like before and afterwards. Dasher's the man when it comes to the beat reporting with terms of basketball and obviously football and baseball and other sort of stuff. I was at the Georgia baseball game this past Sunday, and he was the only one of all the media that was there this week. I mean, there was nobody there from other sources, but we had Dash there for UGAsports.com, and it was a big plus.
He does.
Hey, Josh, thank you. Josh Campbell, thank you for giving us a little thumbs up on there. Wait to call Dash?
Yeah.
There he is. Do we have to put it the sound on, or does it not matter?
Calling him right now.
Yeah. Will we hear a ring or no?
Ooh.
Hey,
Hey,
Dash.
Hey, man.
Hey, we got you live on DawgDial with us, so
All right.
we're ready to talk a little.
We talked a little bit about Mark Fox, the first segment. I mean, obviously you could add a lot more to it, and then we could ask.
So basically what we're going to talk about in this big 12-minute segment here with you, Dash, is a little bit of hoops and baseball since you've been covering that. And then if you can stay around with us for 2 7-minute segments, I don't know your schedule, but we want to talk about spring expectations for the offense and the defense, realistic for the.
I'm just about to pull off the road now, but I'll be ready when y'all are.
Cool. So we're ready to go, so I'm going to lead us in, and we'll get going.
Okay.
Dash gets in a talk for like a segment, bring your audio down.
These two?
Yeah, when he
What?
starts
Okay.
talking, bring yours so we don't hear all this.
10-4. All right, here we go.
All right.
And 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to DawgDial. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined by my co-host, Dave McMahon of UGAsports.com. We've got a special guest with us this week, our own Anthony Dasher of UGAsports.com, coming on the show with us to talk all things UGA sports. What we're going to start off with, first off, is thanking Anthony for coming on the air with us. I know that he's driving to the SEC tournament right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm actually came out of Nashville as we speak, trying to pull off the road here so I don't wreck when I'm talking to you guys. I think I'm good to go.
All right. Well,
Yeah, please don't wreck.
Just to give you an update, Dash, what we talked about, we obviously talked about the press release that came out this morning from the UGA Athletic Association and Greg McGarity. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, what a surprise at all to see it come out, because when I saw the story that Pat Forty wrote, I could just feel the wheels of turning up at Buttsmere. I could imagine something was going to be said. I actually texted, Greg this morning about 7:30 to get some kind of comment, and lo and behold, a little after 8 o'clock, they came through with that statement, which, in a way, it leads you to believe that Mark Fox will definitely be back, but Greg did actually come out and say that specifically. He said we would, essentially we hope he's the coach, for Georgia moving forward. So there still might be more of this story yet to be told.
I think so too, Dash. My biggest thing with it and what we talked about was, them basically saying, yeah, Mark is our head coach for next year. And what are your thoughts? Is it one of those where they could just leave it as a no comment and kind of let this thing ride out and hopefully people forget about it? Or is it one of those, you've been covering it for a long time, they have to put something out?
I think they had to put something out in this case. I think a no comment would have just led to more speculation, more fuel to the fire, so to speak. So I do think they did the right thing by coming out and say something, even if it wasn't anything as specific, maybe as they could have said if they'd wanted to.
What I think, I mean, it's a lose-lose situation for Georgia on that, because if you say, hey, he's coming back, and people will get angry. If you say no comment, people will get angry. So I think they're doing the right thing wise. I still think just because what it was said doesn't mean anything. I mean, they say, oh, he's coming back. They're going to wait to see what happens in the SEC tournament. They're going to see if Georgia gets involved with the NCAA tournament or NIT, and we'll see. They have to see what happens for the full, complete season before they make any kind of decisions. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, and it also leaves Coach Fox out to leave on his own if he desire to. I have nothing at all that's going to happen, but I'm just saying that we'll give him an opportunity to save face, so to speak, and go somewhere else if he decided to, without coming back to bite him.
What do you speaking on your way to Nashville? I mean, Georgia has a big test with Tennessee. I mean, they barely beat Tennessee the first time, but hey, a win's a win right there. And that was the game that Yante Maton didn't even look good with only 7 points and fouling out of the game. Do you see any trouble with Tennessee?
A lot of trouble with Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee in this kind of like Georgia this year, very up and down, not really knowing what you're going to get on a nightly basis. But I just think, again, great J.J. Frazier does some great things for Georgia, but I just still think, Yante Maton, we don't know what his situation's going to be. If he's not able to go, I think it's going to make it difficult for UGA to maybe to win this ball game. But we'll see. I mean, whoever wins this one has a tough road to go on Friday night against Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah. Even if you get through the first game, you got to go through Kentucky on the second one. So,
and that's a difference of a night. If let's say Georgia does win against Tennessee, that's a difference of a 19 games win season, a 20-game win season, and that's something maybe NCAA committee members might be looking at.
Dash,
Go ahead.
Dash, you covered the team all year. What were some, I guess, turning points for you with this basketball team? Obviously, Yante Maton getting injured was a huge one here at the end of the season, but are there any games that you look back on and you say, well, had they won this one and won that one, we wouldn't even be talking about Mark Fox. We'd probably be talking about an NCAA tournament bid?
No doubt about it. I mean, you take the 2 overtime losses, the one in Kentucky and the one in Florida. I was at the one in Florida, and that's a game they really should have won. I mean, I hate to keep harping on officials, which I've done all year long, but the officials, in my opinion, cost them that ball game. I agree with you. If they would have win both of those games, man, and that maybe even that one at Texas A&M and lost by 2 points to South Carolina, win 2 of those 4 ball games, I think right now you're sitting in Georgia being in the NCAA tournament and not having all this conversation we are right now about Coach Fox's future.
I think so too, Dash.
And not just the like you said about the fishing. What about a working clock at College Station?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean, that was just a crazy thing. And everything that's crazy has happened at your team has been happening to Georgia. Again, that's not making any excuses for them, anything like that. But they have had a lot of things kind of go awry for them this season.
Dash, we're going to switch over to baseball. You are the man on the UGA beat that covers baseball like none other. A lot of people coming into the season obviously talking about Coach Strickland and what was his future like for Georgia. Can he make it through the season? Does he have another year that he can continue going on? What are your initial thoughts on this baseball team now that they're a few games into the season?
Well, two thoughts that I have. One, they are playing a lot of freshmen. They're playing starting 5 freshmen in this group. Again, I've written about it many times. This freshman class was ranked number 2 in the country last year, so I think they are getting jobs done recruiting-wise. That said, you still got to win. I mean, and Coach Strickland, and he'll tell you this himself. I mean, they've had 3 straight losing seasons under his command since he's gotten to Georgia, and it's really shaky about if they will be able to break that streak this year. And if they have another losing year, I don't know. I mean, that may be something again Greg McGarry will have to think about. But again, a lot of the issues are with having a young team. It's just how patient Greg McGarry and the Athletic Association wants to be.
I said this to a buddy of mine when baseball season was getting started up, Dash, and let me know if you agree with me, but Georgia is like the 4th best team in the state of Georgia, and I don't think that should be the case. You got Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State. I mean, you could go Georgia Southern. You could pick out, numerous teams. But why is that? I mean, Georgia is the flagship university for the state of Georgia. Obviously, we all know that. And I feel like baseball should be just, top tier for the state of Georgia and especially University of Georgia, but they're just not there. And the buddy of mine who I was talking to with it, he tended to agree with me. He said, yeah, I think you're exactly right, and it shouldn't be like that.
It should be. I mean, Georgia and Georgia Tech should be the 2 teams that, everybody aspires to be, and I still think that's the case. I will say this, though, college baseball, like any other sport out there, basketball, obviously football, and you got a ton of kids that play. There's a lot of parity out there. And we saw last year at College of Charleston, Coastal Carolina went all the way to the College World Series and won the thing. And right before Coach Strickland got here, he took a Kent State team to the World Series. So I think there is an issue. I think if you've got a lot more talent in baseball, you do other sports, that makes for a lot more parity. But that being said, though, if you're University of Georgia, you expect to rule the roost, so to speak, and right now that's not happening.
I mean, Dash, you were at this whole weekend series with this past. I'm trying to blank who they played this past week. But I mean, all three games were amazingly low-scoring games. All three games were 2-0, 1-0 in those games. And what about that last game? 1 minute 57 things. I mean, when's the last time you saw a game that lasted 1 minute and 57? 1 hour and 57. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only remember one other game since I've been covering Georgia for 20 years. I can remember being under 2 hours. And they may well have been more than my old age. That's all I can remember right now. But it was definitely a quick one. And what was funny is somebody in the press box actually had mentioned, this game is going pretty fast. Usually that's like the death knell. That's always something you don't do in the press box. But you looked out this time and they got it done under 2 hours.
I mean, and it was kind of funny that one of the main reasons why the game took 1 hour and 57 minutes was of the great pitching of Chase Atkins for Georgia. And you mentioned that Coastal Carolina a second ago. He was from Coastal Carolina except for last year. So I mean, he could have got a ring if he stayed there next year before he transferred up.
He could have. No, he had an arm injury. When he was with Coastal 2 years ago, and transferred, went to Chattahoochee Junior College to kind of rewrite himself, which he did. I mean, I think he posted the ERA at Chattahoochee was under 2. Had 3 shutouts, 8-1, and put some amazing stats. He's a guy who almost won that Friday night starting job from Kevin Smith, but Coach Strickland likes him in the Sunday role or something. He's really, I think, adjusted too well.
And I mean, the team, obviously has a big week with this week with Xavier and Ryder, but the week after that, it's SEC season. Is this team ready to compete in the SEC?
That's the big question right now. I think that's they're going to run into a little trouble with that, I think, at least initially anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, going to Baton Rouge for these young kids is going to be an eye-opening experience, something they've never been able to do before, have done before. And we'll see. I mean, I am more concerned about even though the pitching is done well, I'm still worried about that pitching holding up against some of these bats we're going to be seeing here very near future.
So for Georgia's basketball and baseball, seems like, there's a lot of questions still to be answered, and I can tell you one thing. If you're not over at UGAsports.com getting those questions answered by Anthony Dasher, well, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Because that's the man right there with the plan, and he's got everything that you need over there at UGAsports.com. He's going to be covering Georgia baseball and basketball for you all week long and the rest of the season. If anything does happen with a coaching hire, fire, anything of that nature with basketball or baseball, who knows? Dash will be the first one to tell you about it. Guys, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to keep Anthony Dasher rolling along with us. Our next 2 segments, we're going to talk about the realistic expectations for spring ball for the offense and the defense. Guys, stay with us. You're listening to DawgDial, presented by UGAsports.com. And Dash, we want to say thank you so much. We got somebody over on Facebook Live right now saying they're watching from Pakistan. So we are worldwide, Anthony Dash.
How about that?
We are worldwide.
From Nashville to Pakistan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're worldwide. So basically right here, we're just going to go into realistic expectations that we think, for the offensive side of the ball in spring ball. We'll do offense this time, and then the next segment after that, we'll do a little bit of defense. See what Dasher thinks realistic expectations are. So here we go. We're 3, 2, and welcome back to DawgDial. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, joined by my co-host, Dave McMahon of UGAsports.com. We've got a special co-host / guest with us this week, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. He's calling in. His name's Anthony Dasher. He's covering Georgia basketball right now in the SEC tournament, but he's taking a little bit of time to talk to us fine folks here at DawgDial, so we do want to appreciate and thank him so much for that. And Dash, we talked last segment about Georgia basketball and baseball, kind of a lot of things up in the air for both of those programs for the University of Georgia. One thing that is not up in the air, no coaching search is needed this year, is the University of Georgia football program. They're about to be starting their spring practice here shortly. And what are a couple expectations? Now, when Dave brought this to me, Dash, he said realistic expectations for Georgia's offense for the spring. So what are a couple things that you'll be out there looking for? Because we know that your practice reports are one of the most read things on the internet in terms of UGA football. So give us a couple things that you're going to be looking for when you head out to practice.
Well, there's a ton, obviously. And I guess, for lack of a better reason, probably still start a quarterback, even though I'm still going to be very surprised if Jacob Eaton is not the starting quarterback when the Dogs open against Appalachian State. I think it's going to be fun to see what Jake Fromm brings to the program. And we all know Jake, what his reputation was in high school is just a tremendously hard worker. And that's something he's brought to campus since he came to school as an early enrollee. And I think that's what Jacob East needs more than anything, somebody to push him, somebody to make him get better. And I think Jake will do that not only on the field, on the field, in the film room, and just everything he does as far as getting himself prepared to play. I think Jacob will benefit him greatly, and I think you'll see him improve. And I think it's a win-win situation for Georgia, both these young men in the program.
I mean, I think it's like you said with the quarterback, either the Easton or From, just the proper being in the same communication, being on the same page with the wide receivers. It seems like so many times it was 3 or 4 yards apart that either in a short pass, long pass. I mean, the only pass that I really, really loved this year was obviously the Tennessee one to Ridley, and then obviously the bad things happened right after that. But that was the most pretty play, one of the prettiest plays I've seen, and I expected that a lot from Easton, and I didn't see it throughout the majority of the year. I mean, I want them to be on the same page, and I think another year of spring ball, another year of summer ball, and getting ready for fall, I think that would help out a lot.
Oh, I agree. I mean, the more you get to work together, the better you're going to get as far as your rhythm goes and everything that kind of goes with that. So, I mean, I think that'll be true not only between Jacob and Riley, but Jacob and Terry Godwin and Michael Chickville and all those guys that are out there wide receiver right now. And it's also going to be important for these young under guys, the younger enrollees that got coming in, some of the other freshmen coming in to really work hard this summer with both of the quarterbacks and do what they can do to make Georgia's offense a bigger success than it was last year.
Another thing, Dash, that in terms of realistic expectations in spring ball, I think everybody, expects DeMarcus Hayes to play a major role in spring ball, and then a ton of people are expecting Isaiah Wilson to step up, come summertime. So what are the realistic expectations for you for the offensive line? Who do you expect to see out there? I think that a lot of people are forgetting about Alden Bynums, who's been in the program for an extremely long period of time. He knows the offense. He understands it. He might not be the most talented, but, he understands it and he gets the system. What are your realistic expectations for seeing that offensive line improve over spring? And do you think it'll be a different starting five when you go out there for the first day as opposed to the last day when you leave?
I definitely think that's going to be the case. I do agree with you about DeMarcus Hayes. I think ultimately going to see him wind up at left tackle, although I think this spring you'll see him play both, just kind of let the coach get a feel for where you're very fits the pass. And, Lamont Gary's moving over to center from right guard. That's going to be another position to look for. Then you've got Solomon Kinley, there at right guard, taking over from Lamont. And then at right tackle, you've got Kendall Baker and Alden Bynum, as you mentioned before. So, but here's the thing, though. Once summertime rolls around, you could see 2 different brand new starters in there, coming into fall camp. You mentioned Isaiah Wilson and Torrey Johnson. 2 guys right there, I think, have a chance to occupy the right side of the offensive line. We'll toss that done sooner rather than later.
What position do you think is locked down the most, Dash? Do you think it's running backs, tight ends? I would imagine you're probably going to say running backs, but I think tight ends. You've got a pretty solid rotation there. So for Georgia right now, I think, like you said, biggest question marks: quarterback, offensive line, potentially wide receiver. Would you go that far? And then you'd probably say, and then you say running backs and tight ends are pretty much set.
Yeah, and one thing about tight ends I'd like to see a little more of. I mean, honestly, I think Isaac Now is going to be the guy who's going to start probably all the games. We know what Jeff Blazers can do. I like to see Georgia, now that Charlie Warner's a year older, got years of experience in playing college football, get him more involved. This guy's so athletic. He can stretch the field, can do a lot of different things. And I think Jim Chaney would really behoove him to maybe try some different things to maybe get him more involved.
I mean, now you mentioned with Warner. I mean, it's what I don't like a lot of things about spring just because of if the offense does well, you're young at the defense, and if the defense does well, you're young at the offense. But what I do like about spring ball is getting to see some of these young guys perform, like a Charlie Warner, and then like with running backs, we've seen Harry for a little bit, and we haven't seen Holyfield too much. I want to see how Harry and Holyfield perform.
And I think those guys will get plenty of opportunity. I mean, like you said, everybody does what Nick Chubb and Sonny Michelle can do. And while they're going to get plenty of work, I don't think you're going to see them be overextended. I mean, there's no reason to. They're going to get their chance, obviously, come fall cap and fall price. So this is the time, like you said, for young guys to really kind of make a statement. And Brian Harry and Elijah Holyfield, two of those guys in the backfield, I think will get those chances.
Well, we got 1 minute left to talk about this offensive side of the ball, Dash. Name 2 or 3 guys that you expect to see in spring ball, maybe make that jump to not so much maybe a starting role, but you can see them jump into where, oh man, we forgot that they were on the team last year, or you know, a couple of those guys.
Well, we already talked about one on Riley Ridley. I think Riley Ridley has a chance to really make a huge step forward in wide receiver. I mean, he put up some good numbers last year in the brief time he's able to play, but he's definitely one guy we'll kind of look to. And I'll go back to Charlie Ward too. I know I didn't mention him in the article. I did stand back. I did mention an article I did just recently. I think he's a guy again. He just has all kind of potential. They just need to find a way to get him the ball. And if they do, I think they'll be successful.
And Georgia fans really want to know: will Mecole Hardman play a little bit of offense?
I think he will. I mean, that's kind of been the bugs that are kind of going around that we will see Mecole play a little bit of offense this year after playing all defense last year, kind of get accustomed to playing college football. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Mecole get that chance because he's too good of an athlete just to limit what he does.
Dash, stay on with us. We're going to come back after this commercial break and talk about the defense. That's the side of the ball that has a lot more question marks and where I think your eyes are going to be on most of the time when you're out at spring practice. You're listening to DawgDial, presented by UJSports.com. All right, Dash, we got a 7-minute here. Thank you so much for staying on with us, man. We're going to talk the defensive side of the ball. Same exact thing here. So here we go. We're going to roll into it. 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to UGASports.com, DawgDial. And we are live here at Champy's Chicken on Baxter Street. Make sure you're getting by here. Josh and Amy Collins, the managers, the owners, they do a tremendous job of keeping everybody fed and it's the greatest food in Athens.
And it's already good food, but then Fridays now they're having crawfish. So you went from great to even greater. So, I mean...
And if Georgia makes a run in the SEC basketball tournament, we might find Anthony Dasher eating crawfish Fridays at Champy's. So we said that on the phone with Dash while he's here. So hopefully he just blocks that out, continues to stay up there in Nashville and does his work. But Dash, thank you so much for coming on with us. We talked about the offensive side of the ball, some of the realistic expectations. I'm going to give you the floor, man, just like we did in the last segment. What are a couple things that you're looking for, and then we can kind of expound upon that on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah. Well, the thing on defense, I think you got to start with the guys who won't be there. That's going to be Trent Thompson. As everybody knows by now, is withdrawn from classes this semester, won't be taking part in spring drills. And what guys on the defensive front are going to kind of step up and kind of take his place. Fortunately for Georgia, unlike a couple of years ago, they've actually got some bodies there, some very good players. Granted, I don't think any of them are in Trenton's category, so to speak, but the guys like Julian Rochester, Daquan Hawkins-Muckle, Jonathan Ledbetter at the end, Devin Marshall is in, John Atkins coming back. They've got a depth, I think, to kind of, make up for that loss, at least initially, up front. And in the middle of the line, at linebacker, Roquan Smith is out with a bone chip, I believe it is, and he's going to be out. But, you're going to see a guy like early Monty Rice get an early chance, I think, to step in and see what he can do. Now, I don't think he's going to win a starting job. He's got to jump over guys like Natrez Patrick and Reggie Carter to do that. But I think Monty Rice has a chance to come in and make a very early impression. Other than that, you got to go to the secondary where you've got plenty of holes there, to come in and step and get some quick playing time there as well.
That's the big thing that I'm looking at, Dash. Obviously, the loss of Trenton Thompson, not knowing if he's going to be back, that's probably the biggest problem that Georgia has on the defensive side of the ball, no question about it. But then I think the second thing, I think Roquan Smith eventually will be fine, and we discussed that last show, basically saying, if there's one guy that, probably could miss out on spring ball and be okay, it's probably Roquan Smith because, as Kirby Smart said, the man doesn't have a governor. He doesn't know when to slow down. So it might be good for him to kind of miss this, in all intents and purposes, to kind of slow down, let his body recover, get everything underneath him and ready for fall camp. But that secondary, Dash, where do you turn to? I think a name that pops up in my head a lot, and especially after Dominic Sanders' comments, Jarvis Wilson being one of those guys that, I think Georgia could potentially turn to in that secondary role. Who are some guys that you think are going to step up? Obviously, you've got Malcolm Parrish, you got DeAndre Baker, but you lost Rico McGraw, you lost Juwan Briscoe, and I think Rico is a really good player. I just don't think that they fit into the system. But you even lost Shaq Wilson. So, what's your thoughts on it, Dash?
I think you've got a couple of true freshmen have a chance to come in and play pretty quick, and one is going to be Richard LeCount, who I understand is going to be able to get a look at the star. 'Cause that's the spot that Maurice Smith leads vacant. You talk about Ricky McGruff, and Maurice Smith is the one who really held that position down last year. So I think Rick has a chance there. And D'Angelo Gibbs, again, a very athletic guy. A guy I could certainly see, getting a lot of PT at safety for him this year. But it's going to be again, like you said, it's a position right now in the secondary. They really got a few holes to fill, and they need to really build some depth. They hope these young kids will be able to do that.
Where are your eyes going to be when you're out there on the practice field watching the defense, Dash? Is it going to be up on the front lines? Is it going to be watching the linebackers? Is it going to be, chasing around the secondary? Where are you going to be mainly focusing your eyes?
I will try to have them focused on everything as much as I can.
Well, we know you are, Dash. You're always everywhere. We know that you're everywhere. But where's one place that you really look at?
It'll probably be the secondary again, because I think there's more there. There are, a lot more questions there. I think they're on the other two positions we mentioned at linebacker and at defensive line. One thing I will say, though, outside linebacker is a spot, though, they really need to build some more depth. We've got they've got Davin Bellamy and Riddler Carter back, but after that, there's a lot of young kids who have not played a lot. I want to see what Chauncey Manak is all about after redshirting last year. I know coaches love him; they love what he brings to the table. I want to see what he can do once he's out there competing.
I mean, you mentioned all sides of the defense. You mentioned the line. You mentioned linebackers. You mentioned in the secondary. What I like about the front seven is that even with the players that we're missing, like with the Thompson and the Roquans, is that there's some experience in depth on that, but there's very little experience depth on the secondary.
Right.
And you're talking about with LeCount and possibly D'Angelo Gibbs. How hard is it for a freshman to be thrown into possibly a first-team role into the spring?
I think it's very hard, especially in the secondary. And we saw it last year with Cole Harvin. I think everybody kind of anticipated coming in and making an immediate contribution. And while he did make it up to practicing with the second team, he was really never a factor in the secondary last year. I think that just speaks how tough that position the cornerback can be in this league to get guys to play like Kirby Smart wants you to do. So, that's to me that's one of the biggest issues for the secondary, is get these young guys up to speed as quickly as possible.
I think so too, Dash, and I'm going to be making sure I look at all of the practice reports. I might even come out there and join you if it's not too hot. So save me a spot, would you?
And one thing we haven't talked about, obviously we had a segment for offense, segment defense. Special teams is going to be pretty interesting this in the battles as well and stuff like that. I mean, but it might lead to more into the summer and the fall. But I mean, there's some kicking situations and some returning situations.
Are you anticipating any more letters from an angry father of a kicker?
If he knows what's good for him, he won't write a single thing to Kirby Smart. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for letting my son be on your team.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to be one thing that you're going to have to keep your eyes on too, Dash. But, Dash, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're a busy man. I know you're headed up there to Nashville to cover the SEC tournament. We'll have you back on very soon, especially if Georgia decides to make a change with their Georgia basketball program. We'll see what's going on with that. And then also, once spring starts rolling around, you're going to have to come join us up here live over here at Champions so we can get you on and talk about
You think they have good chicken in Nashville? They have better chicken here at Champions.
Yeah, so come join us, Dash, and we sure do appreciate you joining us, man. And take it easy. Thank you so much.
Hey, see you guys later.
All right. That was Anthony Dashford, UGAsports.com, one of the premier guys when it comes to just covering Georgia football, basketball, baseball, the whole 9 yards. He is the man. Taught me a ton in this business, so just want to say thank you so much for having him on. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back for the last segment. You're listening to DawgDial, presented by UGAsports.com.